In this video, we're going to be talking about Yuji's soul swapping ability and how dangerous this can really get. I think this ability, personally, can really put Yuji finally in the top 10 characters if done well and if it's what we expect, because you never know. Okay, it can be really technical with this shit, even though it doesn't need to. But I'm going to be going over that. Also, my favorite part is going over kind of narratively how well this could be played out. And on top of that, mainly the three bodies I could see being swapped the most with this technique. Let's not waste any more time and get right into it. Now, the possibility that Yuji is able to swap bodies with people can be extremely favorable to Yuji. Now, in the spar with Kusakabe, we weren't really able to know what he's capable of because Kusakabe doesn't have curse techniques either. So it's really hard to dictate how far exactly Yuji can take it. Also, he was saying that Yuji was struggling to get it down, and it was something that Yuji still needed to train, and something that he really needed to get down pat. So we're not really sure what that is, but it's probably mainly a control thing. But if Yuji can swap souls and take over another sorcerer's body, let's say Yuta for example, he can use Yuta's curse technique copy and probably all of the curse techniques that comes with it. But would he also have access to Yuta's amount of curse energy? That's also a thing. But regardless, that just changes a lot of how dangerous Yuji can really be. Now, it will be interesting to see Yuji actually struggling how to learn other sorcerer's curse techniques, especially learning them on the fly, and how to adjust to another person's body. And looking at how this is going to work from speculation, when Yuji switches bodies, the durability and the insane athleticism probably doesn't transfer to the other person. So he also would have to get better at fighting himself, quote unquote. Like I said in my review, he's literally Captain Ginyu with this technique. Not to mention, if Yuji was to die in another person's body, would he die with that said body, or would his soul transfer back to the original and he dies in his actual body? Because if the transfer doesn't happen in a death scenario, then now Yuji can have leverage if he wants to in situations kind of like a game of chicken. Yuji goes from essentially a grade 1 to a special grade just based off what body he swaps with. And just kind of looking at it as if I'm a higher up, or I like to kind of base some of these special grades kind of like a One Piece thing with the bounties, is that if Yuji's able to swap with any body and any soul, he's extremely dangerous. Because if he gets a hold of some of these characters I'm going to be listing, Yuji is a freaking problem. He might, in terms of theory, he might be top 5. Now let's talk about the main 3 characters I could see realistically swapping with Yuji. I'm going to start with Gojo. Although personally I don't see it happening, I don't think it's a bad theory because I can see the vision, definitely. But I don't know if I want to see, for example, Yuji and Gojo's body fighting Sukuna. Not to mention, I think Yuji would struggle trying to maintain 6 eyes and limitless just off the muscle. That's just something I'm personally not trying to see. But if it happens, I guess I take the L on that one. But the other one, of course, is Sukuna. The story tells itself pretty much. So many times Sukuna has taken over Yuji's body as the vessel, ruined Yuji and not only him but the other characters' lives from just his power and his evil nature alone. He's come close to ending the series on a lot of notes actually. If Yuji switches with Sukuna, who has Megumi inside his soul already, this opens up another way for Yuji to free Megumi's soul from Sukuna, because in Yuki's soul journal, we could potentially see a way for someone's soul to be free from a vessel, or even in a battle sense, Yuji using 10 shadows and Sukuna's technique to end Sukuna once and for all will be a pretty poetic end to the terror of Sukuna, and losing to the technique he was hunting for the longest time, and losing to the kid whose life he was ruining for this entire year when he took over his body. That will be some pretty good storytelling. But the main goal out of this, if he was to take Sukuna, is to definitely free Megumi. I'm not sure how he would be able to separate both, because I would imagine Megumi had to take over Sukuna's body, and then in turn would that get rid of Sukuna, or is Megumi just going to be suppressing him, kind of similar to how Yuji was when he first got Sukuna, because then Sukuna would have to find like a third body. So it can get really tricky depending on how things go. The third option I could see would be Kenjaku. I'm of the belief Yuji got this from Kenjaku's DNA.
Father, what was that verse about temptation?
Because he's technically a curse hybrid, and all the hybrids have some sort of curse technique. Or the other theory I had was that Yuji ate the other Deathbone pains, and that's how he gained this ability. But regardless, this feels like a result of Kenjaku rather than Sukuna. But if Yuji were to be in the vicinity to touch Kenjaku and swap bodies, I could see Yuji being more on the defensive side of the fight rather than offensive, because especially if Yuji jumps in while Kenjaku is fighting, let's say Yuta of course, for somebody, he can at least swap bodies and shut down the curse spirit manipulation and just leave Kenjaku with Yuji's body and let them fight it out 1v1. I don't really see this one happening as much, although the story purposes are definitely there. Kenjaku being defeated by not only Yuta and Maki and whoever's really going to be in that fight seems more likely, but the idea of Yuji, the son he created, who he deemed a failure, will be the one to thwart and end his plans the most. That's another good way of ending the character, another conclusion to Kenjaku I would actually be kind of open for. Plus, I gotta talk about how crazy it is that we are nearing the final arc and Mahito is still relevant to Yuji, even in theory, not only because of the scars on Yuji's face, but the concept of the soul and the body swapping is right up the alley of Mahito and Yuji's dynamic, putting the aspect of the roles that they were born with into a side. I really just wanted to tackle the body and the soul aspect more than anything because this technique would definitely start with the soul, then controlling the body, similar to Mahito's philosophy when he was talking anatomy. You kind of get a contrast in style of Mahito. Probably when he was coming up, he had to learn how to control and manipulate his own soul to be able to be as strong as he was, and he was learning pretty much every day. That's really scary to think about. First of all, Mahito, the more he's around, the more dangerous he would have been. But we knew that over time, Mahito was getting extremely dangerous, especially at making him so stronger. Now with Yuji, it's a little different. He has to learn how to manipulate his soul into another person's body and get stronger using another person's body. So it's really different in how they would be used, but you can kind of look at the themes and the way things are kind of told, that you can see the little comparisons that are told within there. And also the aspect of, let's say Yuji cannot, let's say if he does die, he's going to lose his original body, and whoever body he is in, that's kind of how he takes it. Let's just say that happens. This would then be another kind of parallel, because Mahito ruined so many lives by changing their, manipulating, transfiguring their souls. And with Yuji, he's pretty much putting his own body on the line because he's fighting himself and manipulating another person's soul, but it's not really personally affecting them. So it's really crazy to kind of think about that, connect the dots on those two, and just Mahito and Yuji to me is the best dynamic in the series. And I still think their parallel things between each other is still going to be referenced and kind of just tackled in very subtle ways near the end of the series. That's all I really want to talk about in regards to Yuji soul swapping. Leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the second channel as well. There's going to be upcoming One Piece and as well as a Naruto Center type video on there, so be on the lookout for that around the next 2 to 3 weeks. So there's gonna be some good content over there. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.